Okay, here we go. I'm going in. Okay, this is not good. Hi, and welcome back to the Chromeworks studio in beautiful Ottawa, Canada. I'm Andrew Tomec, your technology teacher, back with another great Scratch lesson. We are working on part 6 of our epic RPG series. This will be the final chapter, the big boss battle coming up today, so I'm very excited to show that to you. In previous weeks, we've set up a very expandable gaming system where you can bring in your own sprites and your own maps and use our framework to design a really cool RPG gaming system. So it's all built in a very modular way so that you can expand this. This is not really a complete game as much as a system that you can build on top of to make a game that's really cool. So follow along with me, and at the end of today's lesson you should have all the components you need to build a really cool adventure game. So looking forward to seeing what you guys produce here as well. Before we get started with coding the boss, we have some housekeeping to do. First of all, you guys have a, if you want to continue working with the file that you have been building over the last couple of weeks, you can do that. But there's a few elements we're going to have to add and some changes we're going to have to make. So let's get to our file here and I'll show you what we're up to. All right, we're in a file here called the RPG Part 6 Catch-Up file. You can find the link to it on my website, or you can find it in the description of this YouTube video. So this is a file that contains everything up until we stopped our lesson 5 last week. So it's all the coding that we completed last week, plus the new graphics that, that I've had to add. I have a new wizard graphic here. Let me show that to you. So the wizard, oh, this is the wrong one. Here it is. The wizard is our boss here, and he is carrying this black flaming staff. And you can see that as it animates itself, it'll kind of look like it's burning with an evil black fire. He's a very cool character. He has some costumes down here at the bottom for fireballs that he throws, right down here at the bottom as well. And that's built into our character. So for you to continue working with your own file that you built, you're going to have to import these characters into it. So even if you're not working off of my file, if you're working off of your own, you're still going to have to open up this file and save these objects into your library. So just to open up your backpack, so open up this catch-up file, drag the wizard boss into your library, and you can drag it back into your own file. If you want to continue working with your own file with your own customizations in there, then go ahead and do that. There's also a lightning bolt which we're going to have appear. It's a little hard to see here because it's white yellow on transparent, but there's a lightning bolt here that we're going to have appear when our boss first appears on the screen. There's some sound effects attached to all these guys as well, but if you drag the sprite into your library, the sound effects will come along with it. So grab those 2 items, put them into your library, and then open up your own file and start coding. If you can't be bothered, then just open up this catch-up file and start coding from there as well. Really, this you want to take this finished code and start adapting it to your own game. So it's not really essential that you code every little bit of this as much as that you understand how it works so that you can go ahead and code your own game using my framework. So by all means, just carry on working with this catch-up file, and this should get you going. Now, there's a few changes I want to make to the code that we did last week. Jeffrey and I had another good look at the game, and we decided that there were some elements that just weren't quite working properly. Our characters and the monster, they're so big on the screen that you really have a hard time navigating around. The screen just feels really, really crowded right now. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to shrink all our characters. If I show you the game up until this point, let's just have a little playthrough here just to give you guys a sense of where we're going. So this is everything we completed up to part 5. You can see when we go into this next room here that the monsters, yeah, it's just a little bit tight in here, I find. And so we're going to shrink the monsters and we're going to shrink the keys and shrink these arrows. We're just going to shrink all the elements down to make a little more room on the screen. Now your backgrounds might not look right as a result of that. You might have to make some changes to your backgrounds as well. While I'm on the subject of backgrounds, there's a brand new background that I want to use in the game as well. This will be the boss level, so you can grab this again from my catch-up file, and it's called Swamp. I actually grabbed a piece of Star Wars conceptual art. This is the forest on the planet Dagobah, and I've just kind of modified it a little bit and tweaked it, and it seemed like a good arena for our final battle with the boss. So you can find this again in the catch-up file. We can place it wherever we want, but I'm going to put it into the room right above, right for now at least, into the room right above our starting position so that we can test out our boss without having to run all over the map. So in order to do that, we're going to have to get, so that would make it map 0x1, 0 by 1, using the XY coordinate system that we created for our maps here. That means we're going to have to get rid of the existing map, which is boardwalk 0x1. I'm just going to X it out here. There's another map here that we haven't been using that's concert -1x0. This has been sitting in the file for quite a while, and it's not really useful because our map doesn't really work with negative coordinate systems. I think we were planning on that, and we changed our minds on that. So X that one out as well. So we've got our swamp 0, 1. In order to accommodate it properly, though, we have to go change a couple of things inside our code here. Let's go to our game controller, and let's look at our code. And down here at the bottom, we've got one of these blocks of code for every one of our rooms. So I'm going to change the 0.1 room from boardwalk 0, 1 to swamp 0x1. And that will set it up so that when we go to our second room, I also want to change the monsters in here. So I'm going to get rid of, you can have monsters in your boss room and make the battle even more exciting, but I don't want to have to battle these monsters every time that I'm testing out the boss. So I'm just going to put 0 in here right now so that we don't have to worry about monsters while we test this boss character out. Okay, that's so far so good. Let's click the green flag here, and I'll just show you what's happening. And so just by making that little change, now when I go up, hit the E key to go to the next room, you can see that now I'm in the swamp room, which is great. Okay, so now we're going to make a few changes to shrink our character, and let's go ahead and do that right now. So just follow along with me, and I'll just tell you all the little places we have to change the code to get stuff working properly. So these are changes to last week's code. Let's start with our player character. Let me just get to my notes here. Okay, so the only thing we have to change in our player character is our size, and because we're smaller, we have to change our movement speed because we're not going to be moving as fast because we're smaller as well. So let's go ahead and change that right now. So there's a red custom block here called Move Player, and in there you can see that our movement speed X is changed by 4. We played around with it, and we don't have to cut it in half. We're going to change it to 3, I think. So change this one to 3, this one to -3, this change Y by 3, and change Y by -3. There we go. And we also want to shrink our characters here. So the size of our characters is dependent on where we are on the screen. You might remember we've got a block here that says set size to Y position with a formula attached to it. So all we're going to do is cut this in half, and we could do all the complicated math to do that, but the easiest thing to do is just multiply this all by 0.5. So I'm going to go times 0.5, drag all of the math into it. And there we go. And so now our player character will be half of the size that he originally was. Let me show you that. We'll click the green flag. And so our character is moving around quite nicely, but you can see he's quite a bit smaller. Our monsters will be smaller too, and that'll just create a whole much bigger arena for us to have combat in. And I think that will just work a lot more nicely. We are going to have to be selective about what backgrounds we use here, and so I think if you really want this to be a nice looking arena, you're going to have to design your own graphics rather than grab the ones from scratch, because I think these proportions aren't quite going to look right anymore. Okay, so that is all the change we have to make in our player character. We have to do similar things inside the skeleton character. So let's go to our skeleton, and we're also going to change the spawning system for our monsters as well. Let me show you one thing that was going on inside the spawning system that I just wasn't liking very much at all. Inside my game controller here, let me just put some monsters back in that swamp room. I'll just go 4 skeletons and 2 bats inside the room. Let's try playing it again. So the current spawning system tends to have the guys all coming from the same side of the screen, or just coming in off the edge of the screen. They're behaving a little bit better. It's funny, I'm attacking these guys and I'm quite tiny. It looks weird. We created a new system that we think works better. This is optional. If you like the way the spawning system is set up right now, you can go ahead and continue using that. But we're going to create a new method where your enemies kind of spawn in random spots around the board. Now that creates a problem where you could end up crashing into one of these guys, and what we're going to do to solve that is create a short period of time where the monsters fade in, and during that time they won't be able to do damage to you. And so we're going to add that to our code right now. You can ignore all of the stuff that I'm talking about right now if you don't want to change the size of your characters, if you don't want to create this new spawning system. So just bear that in mind, guys. So let's go back to our skeleton again. Oh, before I forget, let's get those monsters. Actually, we're going to leave the monsters in the room for now, just so that we can test this out once we finish resizing stuff, and we'll get rid of them later. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change all our sizes around, and our movement speed. So we're going to find a block here that says when I start as a clone, and check if set is clone to 1. This is the right block of code here, the one that has a show in it. So right in here, we're going to change our movement speed. It's 2 steps right now. We're going to change it to 1, and we're going to change our size again to 50%. So again, multiply that by 50% times 0.5 and just drag all of this stuff in there. Set size 2, there we go. And now we're going to change our spawning system around as well in here. And so let me show you what we're going to do there. We're going to create a new custom block that's called check if spawned. So let's go to my blocks, make a block, check if spawned. We don't need any parameters there, so let's just carry on. All right, so we're gonna have to fill that block in later. Let's just put the actual block that starts it off, check if spawned. We're gonna put it right above check if injured. So before we do anything else, we have to run this check to see if our guys are fading in the screen or not. And before we can actually injure them or they can injure us, we're gonna run through this whole routine, which will take a second or so to happen, and that'll give you time to run around the map and get away from these guys in case one of them forms on top of you by accident. Probably won't happen, but we just want to be extra safe, and so that's why we've created this fade in period. Okay, so the check if spawn command, let's fill that up now. Let's blow this up a little bit. All right, so all we're going to do is set the initial size of our guys here. We can actually steal the code from the other set size. Yeah, we're going to actually copy this entire block of code here, set size. Let me make a duplicate of it here. So the set size that we just edited here, let's put it back here again. We want to make sure our guys are the right size when they pop in. So we have to run that check right away at the beginning. All right, and now we're just checking to see if they have just spawned into the screen or not. The way we'll know is if their hit points are at their max, because we do create clones of these guys when they damage themselves. We'll know whether this guy is fresh on the screen or not by whether his health is at maximum or not. So we're going to say if health is equal to 2. So this is just a tricky way of knowing whether, let's go to our variables, we'll grab a health here, of knowing whether our character is freshly spawned on the screen or not. So if health is equal to 2, then we're going to set our ghost effect, which will make us invisible temporarily. We'll go to looks, set color effect, and we're going to change it to ghost effect to 100. And that will make him transparent, so transparent that he's basically invisible. And then he'll fade in as we change this ghost effect. So let me go repeat 40 times. So let's go to a control block, repeat 40 times. We want to get up to 100, so we're going to multiply it by 40 by 2.5. So we're going to change our ghost effect, change color effect, and change it to ghost effect. Change our ghost effect by by minus 2.5. And that'll fade us off the screen again. Let me show you what that's going to look like. Our characters aren't visible right now. Well, let me stop the project. I don't even see them on the screen here. They're probably off the screen somewhere. So let's just move them back to the middle. I'm just going to go to XY. You don't have to do this at home. I just wanted to demo for you guys what this is going to look like. So they're going to start off. They're going to start off invisible and then fade in slowly. I can't really show this to you with a screen maxed out, so I'm just going to attach it to a space key. I'll just go when space key pressed. Let's do that. Now let's maximize our screen, and you can watch them fade in. So let's go set our ghost effect to 100. There we go. All right, I'll show you what they look like when they're fading in here. And there we go. And when he's fully faded in, then you can start taking damage. But otherwise, during that couple of seconds when they're just appearing, we won't be able to be damaged by them. Okay, I'm going to put all that code back in there again. And we'll get rid of this when space key pressed. All right. So that is all I think I have to do with my skeletons. Let's just run the game here and have a look at what they look like. They should be smaller now. There we go, and they are indeed smaller now, and so they're looking around the same size as our character. We haven't changed the spawning system though. So there's a few more blocks of code that will actually drag them to a new location. I forgot to mention that. So let's hit the stop here. There's one more spot we want to change here inside the skeleton, and that is when I receive map change. So when I receive map changed, where did that go? Set enemy count to 0. Yeah, this is the block here. There's these two big blue blocks here that this is where the actual spawning happens. I'm going to pull these both out. We'll put them to the side right now. Here, I'll leave this create clone of myself. And we're going to put a couple of new blocks in the middle here, between here, that are going to just reimagine the spawning system a little bit. So what we're going to tell them to do when they're spawned is go to the controller, which is in the middle of the screen. Let's put these between these two blocks. Go to game controller. So they're going to go to the middle of the screen. Then they're going to spin randomly. So we're going to turn a random amount. So let's go pick a random number from 1 to 360. So they're going to spin around in a circle randomly and then move in a random distance. Let's say move, and we'll tell them again to pick a random number. Now there's different, so this is how far away they're going to be from the middle of the screen. We're going to go from 0 to 100 here. Now this is going to randomly sprinkle them around in kind of a circle around the beginning of the screen, and they'll look a little more kind of chaotic. Let me show you what that looks like now. We'll go to green flag, and let's go up to the first room where there's some skeletons. And so yeah, there's our new guys appearing, and they fade in and then start attacking us right away. I just think it's a little more dramatic than them coming in off the side of the screen. But if you don't like that system, you can go ahead and set your own system up. It's all good. Or you can continue using what we're doing here. So where these guys appear at the beginning of the game is really your choice here. It is your game after all. Okay, we're going to do a similar thing to the bat. So I'm just going to grab, we're going to use the same spawning system for these guys. So I'm just going to grab these 3 block, or actually all 4 of these blocks here. Actually, just grab this whole thing here. So yeah, let's just grab all the contents of this repeat loop and drag it over to the bat. And we can use that code as the starting point here rather than reinventing the wheel. So let's go to the map changed block here inside the skeletons. We'll remove the content and replace it with this content. There we go. And now we can go ahead and trash this. All right, so now our guys are spawning their own way as well with our new method. And we can go ahead and change our movement around as well here, our speed, our size as well. So we're going to use the same, we're going to do exactly the thing we did before here. So let's go add a check if spawned right under when I start as a clone. Check if injured, check if dead. Hold it, let me go back to my bat. I'm in the wrong spot here. Okay. So, so we need a check if spawned block again here as well. We can actually grab that one from the skeleton. So let's go to our skeleton and we'll just grab this check if spawn block that we created, which is, I've lost it again, check if spawned. Here it is. Let's just drag it over to the bat and we'll reuse all of that code. So here we have our new check if spawned block, and we're going to insert the check if spawned right after check if projectile here. So this is the master code that runs the artificial intelligence for the bats. So the first thing they're going to do is check and see if they're a bullet, and then after that they're going to check and see whether they've been spawned or not. The order is actually quite important here, and it has to do with the logic of the program. And if you don't enter it in quite this way, you're going to have you might have some weird random results. So so just be very cautious about that. Okay, so we're changing our speed and size around here. So we can't move, well, it's hard to move less than 1 step. We're going to use a decimal here. We'll go 0.7 for our speed. And we're going to change the size right here the same way we did by multiplying it by 0.5 times 0.5. That'll shrink our bats down to size. And we've already got our new spawning system in there, so we don't have to change that. I'm pretty sure that's all the changes we have to make to the bat. Let's give it a little test and make sure everything's working properly. So we've got a couple of bats in that room. We want to make sure that they're spawning properly and that they're resized. So let's have a look. Yeah, there they are. Everything's good. And they're shrunken. Everything looks good. Yeah, even the bullets are smaller now too. So you can see we've got just a much bigger battlefield to fight on here. Ooh, it just took some damage there. There we go, and I died. Okay. So you can see that the sound effects in this game aren't 100% up to snuff as well. We've added some sounds here, and I've added some extra sounds for the bad guy here, but you're probably going to want to go ahead and customize some more sounds for when your guy takes damage. You could do like an oof sound or something. You could have a projectile firing sound for your guys, for your bats. Again, this is a skeleton of a game. It's not really a complete game, and so this is really intended for you to customize however you want. Okay, so that's all good. I'm basically ready to carry on with the boss now. I just wanted to go back and take the bad guys out of the room here again. So we'll go down to our swamp and we'll go 0, 0. Okay, so we are ready to start on the boss now. Okay, we are ready to go with our boss now. There's some code that we're going to be borrowing from our skeleton. You'll remember that our animation system is all set up to be interchangeable. I showed you guys last week, and I showed you on the live stream last week as well, how you can bring in other characters that you've gotten from all over the web and animate them using this system. So this is a generic system you can use almost anywhere. So we're going to grab the key pieces of code from the skeleton and drag them over to the boss. And then we're going to do some new code that controls the movement of the boss. And then thirdly, we're going to create these projectiles that they're fireballs that the bad guy is going to summon that are going to keep you busy. And then lastly, we're going to summon the lightning that will show you when the guy first appears on the screen. So we've got about 4 different things to do here. Let's start just with the easy parts, the low-hanging fruit here, and that is grabbing some stuff from the skeleton. So I'm inside my skeleton sprite here, and I just want to just completely grab and not really make any changes at all to these animation codes here, because this is basically the same regardless of what game you're in. So I'm going to grab this block here that says define set animation, and this is our master animation system here that's in a custom block. I'm going to drag it over to the wizard just like that. I'm going to drag this one that says when I start as a clone, wait for animation time. So this block here, I'm going to drag that into my boss. And this last one here that has to do with resizing him and changing the stacking order depending on where they are. I'm going to drag that into the boss as well. Now, the only problem with these guys is they all say when I start as a clone. Let's clean up the code here, clean up blocks. Whoop. Where'd my third block go? When I start as a clone. That is weird. I thought I dragged all 3 objects over. Okay, let's go get the other one more time. That's this one here. Drag it over to the boss. There we go. All right, clean up blocks. So our boss only appears once, and he never is a clone. So this block will not actually run now because they're not clones. So all we're going to do is take those 2 occurrences of when I start as a clone and change it to a green flag. And that will fix up our code here and get our guy animating. All right. So our guy's not going to appear in any of the rooms right now. I guess we could... I'm not sure if we can at this point, make him appear. Yeah, I've got him here on the screen right now. I'm just going to click the green flag and see if he starts animating. No, we're not ready to do that yet because he doesn't have his master code yet. I was just checking to see if we were at that right point in the code yet. Okay, we're going to have to be a little more patient for that. Okay, so now let's go ahead and program our boss's actions for when he starts the game. So this is going to be one big long block of code underneath the green flag. So let's go ahead and start building that right now. Green flag. When I start the game, we're going to hide at first because we, of course, don't want to appear until we show up at the right level. Let's blow that up for you a bit. We're going to set a rotation style under motion. Set rotation style to left, right. That's going to make sure our guy, regardless of what direction we tilt him, he'll always be upright because of that. We're going to set some variables here. So let's go to our variables. We're going to set a variable called boss health. We're going to give him 5 hit points. So this is this could be a local variable or a global variable. It doesn't matter because your boss only appears once. It's important in the skeletons and in your bats that you always use a local variable. So if you don't already have this, if you're working on your own project, just go ahead and create a brand new variable called boss health. And so we're going to set it to 5. If you find 5 hit points isn't quite right, you can change it to something else. It's all customizable. Now let's go set 2 more variables called boss room X and boss room Y. So we're continuing to use our numbering system for rooms here, and we're going to basically set up which room the boss is going to be in to fight. Generally speaking, I think the best way to set up these games is going to be to have the boss behind a locked door that you have to get to after fighting a whole bunch of monsters. And killing the boss should probably make another key appear, which will take another room and unlock it and get you to the treasure or whatever it is that your winning condition of the game is going to be. And so that's something I'm going to let you guys play with on your own. But we're just going to set up right now the boss room to be an X of 0 and a Y of 1, which will put it into the room with the swamp right above the top of our heads here. Now we're going to put a wait 0 seconds here. I've explained this to you before, guys. Often, so wait 0 seconds makes something happen right away, but after other events. So if there's an event right next to it that says, that doesn't say wait 0 seconds, that will always happen first. And so it's important that you be able to, Scratch doesn't have really fine controls over when things happen. You can't say this should happen first and this should happen second. If it's underneath the green flag, everything happens simultaneously, but not really simultaneously, because Scratch will always do stuff in a certain order. You can't control that order except using a command like this one. What this does is put it down the queue a little bit further so that other guys that don't have this command get to do it first. And the reason for that, of course, is we want to make sure our guy spawns into the room and everything else is set up properly before he appears, because if he appears in the room first, the code will behave in unpredictable fashion. With the kind of problems we've had before in this particular project, it might be it spawns and thinks you're dead, or thinks that you haven't been spawned yet, and the enemy count is 0, and then it'll show up the key right away, for example, because it thinks you've killed all the enemies, and then suddenly your guy spawns in, and now you've got a key there, even though you haven't fought the monster yet. Weird stuff like that happens if stuff occurs in the wrong order here. So this is just a tricky little way to control the timing of your games. Okay, so we want to wait now. This script is just going to freeze itself until we actually enter the room with a boss in it. So let's go wait until. And we're gonna basically say the map that we're on right now, which is our map X and map Y. Let's go grab an AND statement and 2 equal signs, and I'll tell you how to fill these up. So we're going to say wait until my map X is equal to the room where the boss room is. So let's go boss room X, put it here, and map X. So map X is the room that we're currently in. So if our current room is equal to the boss room, let's do the same for Y. Map Y is equal to boss room Y. So all this is checking to see is, are we in the room with the boss? If we are, then the code will continue to the next step. All right, let's change our enemy count by 1. That's just keeping track of whether we've killed all the bad guys in the room so that other stuff can happen when we finish. Let's go to the middle of the map. Now, the middle of the map might not work out properly. You can basically reset this to wherever you want it. Actually, I'm not going to have it go to 0, 0. I'm going to have it go a little bit lower. So maybe 0 and a Y of -50 or something. So this doesn't have to be, this can be customized any way that you want it to. So this will be the center of the map, but a little bit further down is where he'll appear, like right around here or so, I think, on the screen. Okay, now let's stop again. Now we'll tell him to point towards the player. Now he won't actually be tilted and appearing towards the player because he's been told to stand upright, but that'll just make sure that he's pointing towards the player. No matter where you start on the map, he'll always be pointing towards you. He is a wizard after all, and he sees you coming. All right, we're going to broadcast a message here. Let's go to our events, broadcast a message. We're going to broadcast a new message called Meet the Boss. We're going to do some cool effects later that are going to create some special effects, some lightning when our boss first appears on the screen. So we'll deal with that in a second. But first, let's finish our main boss script here. Let's wait 1 second. So this just gives time for the lightning effect and the sound effects to work before the boss starts doing his thing. Now we can have our boss actually show. Oh, actually, we're going to have the boss show before we wait, I think. So let's go show and then wait 1 second. Now we're going to get our guy moving. So we're going to use our new animation system. Let's tell him to go to the animation called wizard_idle. And that will bring us to this first costume here. It has to be spelled exactly the same way under our animation system, as you know. And so as soon as this is activated, our guy will start to move. We need to tell it what the pacing of the animation is. Let's put in the second dot here, we'll go 0.07 seconds. So that's this time between frames of animation. That's how fast our animation is going to run. And this last parameter here is for whether our animation is looping or not. So it is looping because we want him to continue idling until we tell him to do something else. Okay, so now we start a forever loop that basically just runs him through this routine until he dies. He's going to do the same AI every time. First of all, we're going to tell him to start shooting fireballs. So we're going to set a variable. Let's go to our variables. We'll set the variable called boss shooting fireballs to 1. So that gives him permission to start shooting fireballs now that we're into the main part of the animation here. And he's going to keep doing that until he gets hurt. So we're going to tell him to wait here again. So this code is very, very linear that we're doing here. We're just going to go from one event to the next. And he's always going to behave the same way. Basically, he's going to hurl fireballs at you until you hurt him. And then he'll jump in the air, he'll be injured, he'll jump in the air, he'll disappear, and then land somewhere else on the screen again, and then start shooting fireballs at you. So he's going to be kind of at different spots on the screen as you attack him, which means you're never going to be able to do more than 1 damage to him at a time. Okay, so set boss shooting fireballs to 1. Now let's go do a wait until. We'll go to our events. We will go wait until. And we're going to say we need an AND statement here. We're checking for 2 things here. We're actually waiting until 2 things happen. The first one is we're going to wait until our character has a sword out and is actually damaging him, which means he'll touch him with the white part of the sword, right? So let's go costume name of player contains the word damage. So let's go down to these green blocks here, find the one that says contains. Here it is, apple contains A. So we want to at the bottom here say _DMG. All the graphics that actually have him with our character with his sword out all end with _DMG, and that's so we're using the name again of the costume to determine when stuff happens. Okay, so we need to say here the costume name of the player includes damage. We're going to use that handy reporter block that we use so often. Is this one down here under our sensing blocks towards the bottom. We're going to change this to say player, and we'll say costume name of player. So this will report back to us which costume our character is wearing. Right now he's wearing player idle 8, you can see. Let me just show that to you one more time. Let me change to a different costume for a character. Let's go player attack 7, for example, and I'll just show you how cool this little block is. And so now it'll tell us player attack 7 is the costume he's wearing. So we can always keep track of what costume he's wearing using that. Okay, so the other thing we're waiting for is our character wearing that costume, and are we touching him? So we have to say touching the player here. We're sensing here, and we'll go touching mouse pointer and change mouse pointer to player. Okay, so now we're checking to see if we're swinging our sword and if our bad guy is touching the player, and that will do damage to him. So let's go ahead and so right after this wait until, we can go ahead and damage our guy. So we're gonna say change boss health by -1. We'll go change variable boss health by -1. That will knock a point off of his hit points. We're going to tell our boss that he can't shoot fireballs right now while he's jumping. So we're going to pause the fireballs. In fact, they're all going to disappear. So one of the strategies that you're going to be able to use in the game here is when is you can run up and attack the bad guy, and even if you're about to get hit by a fireball, as soon as you attack him, all his fireballs will dissipate, and it'll give you a chance to get away before you get started again with this. So we're going to go set boss shooting fireballs to 0. That'll stop him from shooting. Now we're going to put him into an injured animation. Let's go back to my blocks. We'll go set animation, and we'll call it wizard underscore injured 0.07 and 1. Not 007, 07 and 1. Actually, come to think of it, the looping should not be happening here. He's just going to get injured once, so we'll put a 0 there under looping instead. All right, good. Now we're going to do a quick check here to see if he's dead or not. He's lost a hit point, but he may or may not be dead. So we'll do a little check here. We'll go if boss health is less than 1. So let's grab a less than sign. Arrow pointing to the left for less than. And we'll say boss health less than 1. I say this every week, but we're not going to go equal to 0, because if you lose more than 1 health at a time, you can end up into negative numbers and then never die. All right, and if that happens, we're going to make our boss die. We're going to actually create a custom block here called boss death. Let's just type that. And we'll deal with all of the details of how he dies inside the boss death command, which we'll deal with later. We don't have to worry about that right now. Let's just shove the boss death in here. All right, so we'll keep this nice and tidy. Now, if he's not dead, we're basically going to wait until the injured animation is over. So let's go wait until, and then we'll say animation ended is equal to 1. So that variable that checks and sees whether it's run through that complete animation. So we're going to go animation ended is equal to 1. So this is the way this is going for this whole code. It's just going to do a little bit and then wait for something to happen and then do a little bit more and then wait. And so it's a really interesting way that this is structured, actually. Okay, and then after he's done being injured, if he's not dead, he's going to jump up in the air. So let's go set animation. Again, my blocks, set animation. We're going to do the one called wizard underscore jump. Make sure your capitals are in the right place again. And this is a looping animation, so we'll go 1 and we'll make the delay the same, 0.07. So our wizard's in a jumping animation now. Now we're going to jump into the top of the screen. We're going to do it in 2 different chunks though, because we want him to jump for a while, and then we want him to start to fade out when he's kind of halfway through his jump. So we're going to set up 2 different loops here that are going to get him to jump a little bit and then start fading and finish jumping again. So let's go control repeat. We're putting the still inside the loop here. Repeat 15 times. Change your Y by 10. So let's go to our motion blocks. Change Y by 10. That's going to start him moving up the screen, depending on where he is. We're just going to make sure he goes basically up to the top of the screen. So so he jumps that little bit while he's visible, and then we're going to set a variable. Let's just make a repeat of this loop right now. Just duplicate, and we'll say repeat 10 times, because in a second we're going to be doing that as well. So we're repeating change Y by 10. And in between here, we're going to tell our guy that he can start shooting fireballs again. So let's go to our variables, set boss shooting fireballs back to 1 again. So even when he's halfway through his jump here, he's going to start shooting fireballs again. He's escaped. And while we're going up that last little bit, we're going to start fading out here. So let's go change our ghost effect. We'll go to our looks. We'll change our ghost effect by 10. And so by the time he's done this loop, he'll be totally invisible, and then he's going to respawn on a different part of the map by landing and coming back down onto the screen again. And so let's do that next. First of all, we have to get him into a random new X coordinate. So we're going to tell him to go to an XY position. And that XY position is going to be basically, so our X position is going to be basically as far left or as far right as he can go on the map. And we're going to get him to pick a random location between those two limits. So let's go pick random. We're going to tell him to pick a random X coordinate based on the far right, between the far right and the far left of the screen, basically. So let's go, we have a variable here called map limit left and map limit right. So for this particular map, the map limit is minus 226 on the left and 226 on the right. And so we're picking a random number between those two values. And we'll do the same for the Y as well. So we just wanted to show up in not on a random spot on the map, but a random spot on the area of the map that he's allowed to walk on, basically, based on those limits that we set up in our game controller way back in like week 2, I believe. All right, so I'm just going to do a duplicate of all of this. Let's go pick random, duplicate. And we're just going to change the map limit left here to map limit down and map limit up. Okay. So we're picking a new spot for him to go to. Let's tell him to point towards the player so he's actually facing in the right direction when he lands. Point towards player. Now he's at the so we picked his new location for him. Now let's move him up way above that spot. We're going to tell him to change his Y here. So he hasn't actually appeared in the spot yet. We just picked his landing spot. And now we're going to shoot him up in the air so they can come down from that spot and land where we want him to. So let's tell him to change his Y by 280, which is basically the distance that he flew up in this particular script here. We're going to set our ghost effect to 100 in case he's not already at 100. So we'll go set ghost effect to 100. And we're going to get him into a falling animation. We're going to use our my blocks and type in wizard underscore fall. And it's going to be a looping animation 1, and the timing is going to be 0.07. All right, so he's ready to go now, ready to fall. He's wearing the right animation. He's got his spot picked, and we're just going to cool our jets here for 3 seconds. Give the player a chance to dodge fireballs for a few seconds, and then he's going to fall down the screen again. So let's go repeat 25 times. Change Y by -10, motion. Change Y by -10. So that'll bring him down. And I think the math is off here. This should say 250, I think, and not 280, because this actually adds up to 250. And while we're falling, we're going to change our ghost effect. So let's go to our looks. We'll go change ghost effect by 25. 100 divided by 25 is 25 times. So let's go 4 or -4. So that'll make him slowly fade in over the course of that fall. And when he's done that, we're going to set him back to an idle animation. Set animation wizard underscore idle. delay of 0.07 and a looping of 1. And so that'll just bring us right back to the start again. He's going to stand there and wait for you to slash him with a sword again, throwing missiles at you like crazy. All right, we got our guy halfway working now. Let's give it a little test and see what's happening. Before I do that, though, one little thing I forgot to do is while we were shrinking all our characters, I also want to shrink these arrows and the locks as well. So we're going to take everything here and just downsize it a little bit to match the new size of our characters. So we don't have to do this in the code. We're just going to do it in our attributes menu right over here. I'm just going to change the arrow size from 40 to 20. We're just going to cut it in half. And the keys as well, we're going to change them from 60 to 30. And that should just keep them a little more in keeping with the size of your characters. Okay, so let's go ahead and test our game now. We'll click the green flag. And up we go to the boss room. And here's our boss waiting for us. He's got his really cool idle animation going. And now let's take a slash at him with our sword. And then he jumps up in the air and disappears. Oh, where is he? He's going to appear again in a random spot on the map. He comes down again. We can take another slash at him. And he jumps up again. And again, he'll appear somewhere random on the map. Here he is. I kind of anticipated that. There we go. And he's going to do that 5 times. The problem is there's nothing for him to do when he dies. So let's go ahead and create a death animation for him. So we're back in our wizard boss again, and we're going to fill up this boss death block here to have something actually interesting happen when he dies. Let me find the code for that. All right, so I've got a sound effect already set up for when he dies. I'm not going to preview it for you because I just want you guys to enjoy hearing it the first time when we kill him for real. So we're going to go start sound, boss dies. We're going to change our animation here. Let me zoom a little bit so you guys can see better. Set animation. And we're going to do wizard_death. And then the same attributes except at 0. So 0.07 and no looping. So 0. And now he's going to wait until he runs through the animation once. So let's go wait until animation ended is equal to 1. So this gives him a chance to run through the animation exactly once. And then he's going to fade away. So let's go to our control blocks. We'll go forever. No, actually, we don't want to go forever here. We're going to go repeat 40 times. We'll have him fade away. We'll change our ghost effect by 2.5. So looks, change color effect, and we'll change that to ghost effect 2.5. There we go. So then he'll fade away. We're going to reduce our enemy count by 1 here. So let's go to our variables, change enemy count. We could still have bad guys on the screen here theoretically, though I find it hard to imagine that you've killed the bad guy without killing his minions first. So change enemy count by -1. And we're just gonna get him locked into this animation here. The game's basically over at this point here, so let's just tell him to, well, actually, so we don't want the bad guy appearing again. We're going to tell him to just keep waiting here. We're going to put him into a waiting forever loop, and that'll stop him from reappearing the next time that that we come back to the screen again, I believe. Okay, so now we can test out killing him and see how that works. Let's go. There we go. There he is. He's in the proper animation now. We'll slash him. He jumps up in the air. And he comes down in a random spot. Kill him again. We're going to have to do this 5 times to kill him. That's 2. Where are you? There you are. 3. 4. And here comes the coup de grace, as they say. Coup de grace. Here we go. Let's see how this works. Ooh, that's a freaky sound, isn't it? Yeah. So I designed that sound. I grabbed a file from Freesound and messed around with it a little bit and turned it into a fun little thing. And so when he dies, now suddenly our exits to the room appear and our key that we set up in the room here. So though I would have a final room basically that's locked behind this blue key, and that leads to a victory condition basically. So the idea is, as I said earlier, that you should have your boss behind a locked room. You should have to go to a far end of the map to get the key and then come back here, unlock this door, go into the room, kill the boss, and then go unlock another room that's like a treasure room or something, and that would be the end of your game. That stuff is all stuff that you guys can figure out on your own, of course. So, now we need to make our bad guy a little more dangerous. That was a little too easy, wasn't it? So now we're going to start him shooting. As I said, he's not going to shoot fireballs himself. He's going to summon them from outer space, and they're going to rain down at you from every conceivable direction. And so that's what we're going to set up next. Let's just let's stop our file here. And so we're going to do a few blocks here that only have to do with the fireballs that we're going to be shooting. Where do they actually start? Okay. All right. So we're going to need a green flag here. So all the rest of the code we're doing is just going to be related to the fireballs now. So when I click the green flag, let's wait 1 second. For our level, for you to get oriented in your level before the fireballs start pelting us. Then we're going to repeat until the boss is dead. So again, we'll use less than 1. Boss health is less than 1. So until he's dead, we're going to keep repeating this. We're going to wait a random amount of time. So this is the interval in which we're going to be shooting. So wait under our control blocks here. Where is the wait until? Oh, sorry, just wait a certain number of seconds. We're going to wait a random number of seconds. So let's go pick a random number. And we want them to be something from 0 to 1 second. So a fraction of a second, from 0 to 1 second. So really that's going to give us a random number between 0 and 1. This is 1, 1, pick random from 0. I think we have to go to get a digit that's so we want this to be a random number with 2 digits in it. I'm going to go 0.00 to 1. Yeah. What if I go 0.0 to 1? Yeah, no matter what happens, as long as you add a decimal there, the random number you get will be a decimal. And so now we're getting a truly random number from 0 to 1. So this is 0.066, 0.38, 0.04, and you can see it's going to be raining a lot of missiles down on you, but not too many of them for you to handle, I hope. And we're going to create a clone of ourselves. Control, create a clone. So it seems like we're creating clones of the wizard, but what's really happening is when these guys start as a clone, they're going to change themselves into fireballs. So they're never actually going to be wizards. We've just managed to keep all the code inside the same object was the basic idea here. So when I start as a clone, we've got a couple of different blocks of code here that control different aspects of our missiles. So the first thing we're going to do is make our missiles fade in. We're going to start them at a ghost effect. So we're going to go to our looks menu. We'll go set ghost effect to 100. That'll make them start off invisible and they'll fade in as if they're being summoned, right? We're going to set our rotation style, motion. We're going to change our rotation style here because we're locked in left, right now, and we want these guys to be tilted. So we'll tell them you can rotate all around. We're going to switch our costume here before they become visible. So let's go switch costume to fireball. We're going to tell them to go to the front. go to front layer so that they don't appear behind our wizard or behind our character. They'll be in front of any of the other characters on the screen. And then we're going to sprinkle them randomly across the screen. And we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to bring them to the middle of the screen and then shoot them off in a random direction and then have them come back towards us again. So go to 0, 0, and then turn randomly from 0 to 360. So bring it to the middle, turn it for, I could say from 1 to 360, and then move it out in a different direction. This is a great way to randomly distribute stuff like this across the map. And we'll go move minus 300 steps. And so that will move us backwards right off the edge of the map, basically. So they're always going to appear off the edge of the map, but in a random direction. They could be coming off the floor even, right? Point towards the player. Point towards player. So they're always going to be aiming towards you, but if you keep moving, hopefully you'll be able to steer away from them. And then we're going to just offset them so they're not always directly aiming at you. So we're going to turn them by a random amount here so that they're not exactly aiming at you, but kind of aiming at you. So turn, and we're going to pick a random number here between minus 20 and 20. So wherever it is that your missile is heading, which is directly towards you, it's going to be able to go off by 20 degrees this way or 20 degrees that way, basically. It's the way that we're going to set this up. And then we're going to start the moving. So let's go to our control blocks. We'll go forever, not repeat. We're going to go forever, move 3 steps. Okay, so we're ready to test this. Our missiles are not going to be working properly yet. There's nothing that deletes them here, but they're at least going to be flying onto the screen, and we can see what those are going to look like here. So let's click the green flag. Go up to our wizard room. There's our guy. So you notice the guy within a death animation when he started, he doesn't immediately get told to go to a new animation. Okay, he's not appearing here. Are these missiles hidden? Yeah, our guys still have a ghost effect, right? We haven't unghosted them yet. So they're being created, but they haven't been unghosted yet. That's happening in the next part. So we actually aren't ready to test this yet. Sorry about that. Let's start a new block here. We'll get to it really quickly here. We'll go to control. When I started the clone, here's where they fade in. So let's go repeat 10. Change ghost effect. By 10. So this is going to slowly, by minus 10. And we'll basically wait until they hit a wall or hit us. So we can do a wait until here under our control blocks. Wait until touching the edge. And then we're going to fade them out again and then delete them. So let's go, we're actually going to repeat all of this stuff here. So repeat 10 times, change ghost effect by 10. And then when we're done fading away, we'll just delete the clone. All right, so now our missile should be visible. Let's have another look. There we go, and here come our missiles. Whoa, there's a lot of them. So you can see it's quite challenging. And we got one more thing to do here. Let's start one more when I started the clone here. Oh, actually, there's a couple of things we want to do here. The first thing we want to do is when we hit the bad guy with a boss, we want all those missiles to disappear, because if you're about to get hit by a fireball, you get frozen into this animation where you're attacking, and you won't be able to dodge out of the way. So that's not fair. So if you actually get to the point where you can attack him, if you get past the fireballs and you hit him, those missiles are going to disappear. So when I start as a clone, we're going to have this script wait until boss shooting fireballs is equal to 0. Boss shooting fireballs. Well, let's get an equal sign in there first. So he's getting that signal from a different set of blocks here that's telling him boss shooting fireball is no longer enabled. So it's equal to 0. And when that happens, we're just going to get rid of all of the clones on the screen. So we'll go delete this clone, and then I'll kind of reset these guys. Let me show you that. So when I hit him, all the missiles disappear, and then they restart again. After he's up in the air, you do some more dodging, and then again you have to go back. You notice that the missiles aren't hurting us yet. That's the last step we have to do here. So let's go ahead and code that last part here. All right, so now we have to handle being injured. It's a little bit complicated because we actually have to let these fireballs hurt us, but not all the time. There's certain circumstances where we're not going to want to be hurt by the missiles. Number one, if we're already dead, there's no use taking damage away from us, and in fact, that's going to confuse the software. Also, if we have just been injured a moment ago, we don't want to take a second damage if 2 missiles hit us simultaneously. That we're gonna, just to make the game a little bit less complicated, we're going to say you can only be hit by 1 missile at a time. So we're going to determine that by checking to see what costume we're wearing. We have an injured costume, and if we're wearing that, we can't take any new damage, essentially. And also, if we're attacking the thing, if we have our sword out and we're in a damage pose, then also we won't be able to take damage from the missile. The missile will take damage, but we won't, and that's the way it'll work. So to pull all this off, we need a fairly complex set of if statements. Let me show you how this works. I'm going to go when I start as a clone. First of all, we want to be invulnerable for the first half a second or so after these missiles are being created. So let's just go wait 0.5. So this damage script isn't going to start working until half a second into it. That'll mean that if a missile spawns right on top of you, you'll have a second to get out of it before it actually hits you. That's only fair, I think. And then we're just going to sit and wait. So we're going to go wait until, which is under our control blocks. Wait until. So the script is going to freeze until a missile is hitting the player, until it's touching a player. Let's go to our sensing blocks. Go touching player. There we go. Now, this doesn't handle them going off the screen, which we handled elsewhere. So the only other circumstance here is the missiles touching us. So we're going to wait until that happens, and then we're going to see what else happens with our script here. So here's where this if statement comes in. We'll put an if statement, and now we need to be checking for 3 different things, but it's a little bit confusing. So what we need here is let's start with an and statement. Just build this exactly the way that I am. If this is nested in the wrong way, it's really not going to work. So I need to do exactly what I'm doing. So I put an and statement into the if statement, and on the right-hand side of the and, I'm going to put a not. And then inside the not, I'm going to put an or. Sounds confusing, right? So I'm going to say if this is true and these two and this isn't true or this isn't true, one of these things is happening, then we can take damage. But if one of these is true and this is true, then we won't be able to take then we will take damage. So let's fill that in. It'll make more sense once we fill in the blanks here. So the first thing on the left here is if we're alive. So if player health is greater than 0, and that's always the case. We're never going to take damage if we're already dead. It just doesn't make any sense, and it can mess the game up. So, and one of these 2 things has to be not true. So what's the thing I need to be not true here? Our costume name of the player has to, so both of these are going to be structured the same way. It's costume name of player contains. So we're checking to see if our costumes are two different statuses here. Just a second, I have an itch. Okay, so let's grab a contains block. This will make more sense in a second here. So Apple contains A. I'm going to pull this out. Actually, we're going to make a duplicate of it in a second. Then I'm going to go to my sensing blocks and grab my reporter block. I'll change it to costume name of player. Oh, we have to change this to player first. So costume name of player contains player underscored injured. So that's one of the things that it can't have. If we're already injured, then it can't, then this will not be true and we won't take damage. Let's make a duplicate of this block here. The other thing is the costume name, it can't contain the words underscore DMG. That means we have our sword out and we're actually attacking it. We have one of our sword swinging animations out. And in that case, we won't take damage either. That will deflect the blow with our sword and destroy the missile. So we're going to put one of these in each of those slots. Make sure you pop into the right place. If it's not glowing inside there, you can end up pushing all this out and messing up all your code. So make sure it's in the right spot. Let go. Now we have this very, very complicated code that's basically going to injure us if this weird set of circumstances isn't true here. And how are we going to injure ourselves? We're just going to go to our variables. We're going to go change player health by -1. That's pretty straightforward. Take a point of damage. And we're going to reset the player. Now, way back in episode 1, I told you about how this reset player works. We're going to broadcast a message that says reset player. That just resets the code that's controlling our animations. And without resetting the player, we would be stuck in a different animation. What this does is it breaks us out of our current animation, even if we're in the middle of something else, and it'll put us into, it'll start us into a new animation again. It's just a nice way of controlling animation. As I said, the details are in episode 1. Okay, so we take damage, and then we just have to basically fade the missile out and delete it at this point. So let's go grab a repeat block. We'll go repeat 10, change ghost effect. So we'll go change color effect, and we'll change it to change ghost effect by 10 times. So that will fade it out, and then once it's finished fading out, we'll delete it. We'll go delete this clone. Okay, so now our missiles should be vulnerable to our counterattacks, and they should be able to hurt us as well. Let's play the game once and have a look. Up to boss land. Here we go. So let me try slashing one of these guys. Oh, so we took damage. We got hit once by these guys. Let me slash this guy. There we go. We didn't get injured by that. Yeah, we're attacking these guys, and they're not doing damage to us when we hit them. Everything's working exactly the way we want it to. Okay, I took damage there. I should probably attack my boss. There we go. The missiles disappear, and then they come back again. This is actually a really fun part of the level to play. I really actually enjoy this. Ooh. There we go, and now I'm dead. Okay, we're looking really good here. So we're basically done. I just wanted to add a little bit of fun to the end of the game just because we had the boss going here. So the last thing I want to show you is just how to get that lightning happening. We already have the event set up for the lightning to happen, and it's called the boss. The event is called, where did I, so hold it. Broadcasting, what's the event called again? Meet the boss. So this is the moment that the boss appears on the screen, and we just want this ominous lightning to appear. I already have lightning here, and I have a sound effect all ready to go. I'm going to play that. I've got, it's called lightning and laughter. So it's going to be a cackling sound plus a lightning bolt. And I'm going to show that to you in just a second here, but let's get the code set up so that we can roll it out properly. So when that message is received, we're going to have to do some coding on the lightning and on the backdrop to make this work properly. We're going to have everything kind of flashed and look creepy like a lightning storm. So let's go under the lightning here. Let's grab a green flag. We're going to tell our thing to go to the top of the screen right now. So let's go to our motion blocks. We'll tell it to go to an XY coordinate. Let's blow that up a bit so you guys can see better. So we want it to go to an x-coordinate of 0, so it's going to be centered on the screen, and then right at the top of the screen, 180. So we're moving our lightning bolt right to the top of the screen. You'll notice that our lightning bolt is set in such a way that the center of the object is really at the bottom. So by sending the lightning to the top of the screen, we're actually moving it off the screen, because only the bottom-most tippy of the lightning bolt will be visible. And then we're going to bring it down using a glide command really, really quickly. So let's have a look at that. We'll go back to our code here again, and we'll tell it to hide just in case a little bit of it is visible. We're just going to show it again right away anyway. So back to our events. When I receive meet the boss, we're going to show, and we're going to start our sound. We want to start sound because we want other stuff happening simultaneously. We'll go start sound, lightning and laughter. And we're going to glide down off the top of the screen, and we're going to hit the boss like he's being activated by lightning. So we're going to go glide. We're going to grab this one that says, block here that says glide to random position. It doesn't just glide to random positions, it can glide to a specific sprite. And the sprite we want to click here is the wizard boss. We don't want to take 1 second, we want it to be super fast. So I'm going to go 0.1 second. So it's just going to go in 1/10 of a second, which is pretty awesome. That's the way that lightning goes, super fast. And let's tell it to wait half a second. So it's going to appear there, stay on the screen for half a second, and then disappear. We'll just tell it to hide. We could tell it to fade away, but we want this to happen very quickly. This is lightning. It happens in the blink of an eye, and that's the way we're setting it up. Okay, so our lightning's going to come down, strike the bad guy. A sound effect's going to play that's really, really creepy. But we also want the background to light up too. So that's why we're going to go to the backdrop as well, and we're going to program it that when it gets that message, it's going to light up the whole background as if the lightning is igniting everything on the screen here, or illuminating everything on the screen. So when I receive meet the boss, we're going to change the brightness of the screen. So let's go change brightness effect by 50. Then we're going to wait. So this is all happening very, very quickly. We're just going to do some very quick changes here. We'll go wait 0.1 seconds. Now I'm going to make it, we're going to do this a couple of times. So I'm going to duplicate on the word change here, and we'll get this pause in here. So you can see our screen's turned super bright. We're going to change, now we're going to go have our screen go super dark. It's going to actually go -100. So we started off at a brightness of 0. We went up to 50, which is brighter. Then we go darker down to -50. And we wait 0.1 seconds. And then we bring our brightness effect back to 0 again. So let's just duplicate this again. So we're going to change our brightness effect by 50. That'll bring us back to a neutral spot again. And then we're going to turn black, basically. We're going to go change brightness effect by -100, just for 1/10 of a second again. And at the end of it, we're just going to clear all this out by going change graphic effect. Clear graphic effects. And that'll just set all our lights and darknesses back here. So I don't know if this makes any sense to you here, but let me show it to you bit by bit. So clear graphic effects, well, let's stop the script. So this is our default brightness here. Let's just pull this apart and show you what each bit of it does. So here's our first change of brightness. It makes it really bright. Here's our second change of brightness, makes it super dark. Here's our second one, it brings it back to normal. And here's our third one, it brings it back to black again. All right, so it's flashing black, black, and then goes back to normal again. So we're really flashing. Now we could do this. There's probably more clever ways to do this, right? But this is fine. This will work okay. And at the end, we'll clear graphic effects. Okay, we're good. All right, let's meet the boss for real now and see how this looks. All right, we walk across the screen. Okay, this is not good. Yikes. And there we go. Beautiful. So there's lots we can do to make this game more exciting. We're basically done now, though. So this is the last little bit of code I wanted to show you. There's lots of things that we can do to upgrade this game. Let's just get back to here. So what a marathon that's been, guys. We've been through 6 parts and probably about 4 or 5 hours of training to get through to this spot in the game. As you can see, we don't have a finished game. What we have is a game engine, meaning we've got the basis of a really cool video game that you can set up. So if you go back through all the various parts, I've taught you how to set up everything. So all we need to do now is grab some sprites. We can animate them using our animation engine. We can set up a map using our map engine that we talked about in part 3. Then we can create monsters. I've taught you how to create melee monsters and projectile monsters, the 2 main kinds of monsters you're going to face in any kind of video game, how to give them hit points and stuff. I've taught you how to create locked doors. I've taught you how to navigate around to keys. And I've given you a basic structure for a boss in here. Now you can change any of these graphics around, set up a game any way that you like it, custom make your map so that they all work, set limits on your map so that you can only walk on certain parts of your map, like the limits here would make it so you can only walk in the foggy area down here. And then you just need to do a little bit of coding to have victory conditions. You could have create a treasure chest. You could have information popping up on the screen when you step on stuff. There's lots of stuff that you can add to this, basically. You can have things happen if you enter a certain room. You could have different events happening just by saying if map X equals 1 and map Y equals 0, then have this happen, for example. There's lots of different places that you can go with this from here. But so this is the essence of a really, really good game. I think that we've constructed it in a very clever way, and it's something that you can definitely use in your own projects. I am looking forward to seeing what you guys do with this. So please save your, make a game out of this, do something with this project, save it into our remix room, and I will show anytime anyone makes a project with this, I will show it on my live stream, which airs every Saturday at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. Eastern. This weekend, which is which is October 24th, which is probably in the past for you when you're watching this, but in the October 24th live stream, I'm going to be going over how to create new sprites to put into this. So I'm going to be showing you where I got these cool animated sprites from, how to download them, how to bring them into Scratch, and how to convert them so that they're useful as sprites. We're going to take a sprite sheet and basically turn it into individual sprites, and I'm going to teach you all that cool stuff. So if you're interested in that, check out my live stream. I'm sure you'll have missed it because this video is actually coming out after the live stream, but go back and look at it on YouTube, and you can get all the information that you need about how to create your own sprites for this. You can get sprite sheets from all over the place, so you can turn this into a sci-fi RPG or all kinds of different ideas. So I would love to see what you guys make with this. I'm going to challenge you guys out there in the Scratch community to do something with this engine. If you are having trouble, if you don't understand something about it, write me a letter, drop me a note. You can email me at info@chromeworks.ca and just let me know if you have any trouble with this, or if there's anything that's not working, and if a bunch of people are having the same kind of problem, or if there's some kind of issue, I'll talk about it in a future live stream. So love to hear your feedback. If you want to get in touch with me and tell me what you think about this project, please go ahead. In the meantime, have a great time. I will be back Next week, I think what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to revisit some of the arcade games that I was building in the summertime. So we're going to be just revisiting some of our old projects and cleaning them up. Now that I know a little bit more about Scratch and I'm much more of a coding expert than when I started, I'm going to redo this stuff, and we're going to get rid of a lot of the chatter and stuff like that was slowing us down, and just do a couple of stripped down, really good arcade game lessons. So looking forward to doing that with you. In the meantime, have a great week, guys. We'll see you later.